Hey everybody, this is Wild and Woolly Game coming to you live from the middle of nowhere, the center of everywhere today to bring you a new Kerbal Space Program challenge. I want this one to really challenge you, to push you to your limits. The challenge today is to make, it's a two-part challenge. It's to make the cheapest possible maneuverable plane, so something that actually has control surfaces and will be able to do turns and other maneuvers, and also to make the cheapest possible plane just really possible. One that does not crash into the ground immediately after takeoff and has some level of stability during flight. So, before I get into this, like, comment, subscribe. It means a lot to me. Without further ado, here is my contestant into that challenge. So I've got the tiny Mark 1. This is an unusual plane. It's much different than the last one I made, which skated in just under 3,000 credits. This is hardly over 2,000 credits. And it's also about a half ton. So what I've done was I put some basic fins on it, some Elevon 4s for controllability, and I've also added the Probodyne, so it just has any way for me to transmit those controls, and also your basic small circular intake. Now where this gets creative is the fact that I put in, instead of the Mark 0 liquid fuel fuselage, which I feel like most people would use, I put in the Oscar B fuel tank. Now I'm not saying you need a ton of fuel in this, it just needs to prove that you can maneuver with it, and that's it. And I've also put, as in my other one, the J20 Juno basic jet engine. This has no lateral stability. It's got no actual, no way to control it if you yaws to the right or the left. But without further ado, this is how I will prove it, that this plane actually works. And I'll show you my other design in just a second. It's both of them, in my opinion, are quite inventive. I'm pretty proud of myself. So you can control this. You can control this thing relatively quickly after takeoff, and as you can see here, it's got a great roll rate. Part of that's attributed to the large control surfaces and the relatively low weight, but it's also got very fast speed, which you could imagine 20 kilonewtons of thrust max up against 20, less than a half ton of weight. Now, again, all I need to do is just prove that this thing can fly, and it doesn't need a lot of fuel to do that. So that's my entry into that challenge, into that part of the challenge. And then I've got the Mark III, which is just to make the most a controllable basic aircraft. So I took out the Oscar B fuel tank, I shortened the fuselage, and I added a baguette fuel tank. Meshed in, it's just fused, clipping with everything. It has everything else the same, and it comes in at about 4/10 of a ton. Now, this thing does not crash immediately upon takeoff, and it actually maintains controllability, or maybe I should say stability, as in it won't crash immediately, but it doesn't maneuver. So let me just show you. So it wants to yaw to the left a little bit because of the placement of the baguette fuel tank, but that's whatever. As you can see here, there's not really much control, but I'm demonstrating what I expect at the very least from this part of the challenge, again, to make the cheapest, stable-ish, somewhat controllable plane. Doesn't have to be maneuverable, but it has to show a level of control, and this also actually goes quite fast. It's significantly faster than my other plane. So that's that, and again, it proves that I can fly, and that's the important thing. Now, one addendum, and you can do this if you want, I'm just going to add the 48.7, what is that, S? Spark liquid fuel engine. And because this is a rocket fuel tank, I can just modify it to put the rocket fuel in it, right? The oxidizer, as well as put in the additional liquid fuel. And at this point, it becomes very, very controllable, and it's actually less than 1,000 credits. So if you really, really want to try to beat me in this, and I'm not going to count just reducing the liquid fuel and the oxidizer, as beating me, because I can do that too with the same design. But if you really want to beat my designs, you have to beat 990 credits being used for a plane. And I'll show you that this design works. in just a moment once this loads up. And again, be creative. So, because of the gimbal, the vectoring that this has, it does have a level of stability, and it flies actually quite fast. It's not as fast as the jet engine, if I'm not mistaken, but it's still pretty fast, and it does show a level of stability. Yes, I can't even speak. Stability, even though it's a little bit chaotic, and it wants to yaw a little bit more to the right, and it wants to move a little bit more. But even in these turns and all that, it does still maintain course, and again, that's because it doesn't really, there's not really much momentum behind it. Anyways, this is Wild and Woolly Gaming. Try to beat my designs. I've got my one design at 2,050-ish credits. That's for the maneuverability aspect of it, for a maneuverable plane. And I'll also have this design at 990 credits for the cheapest, flyable, stable plane. And you could even consider this maneuverable, but I'm going to go with the 2,050 credit plane that I came up with as my maneuverable plane, and this as my just basic controllable aspect of it. Anyways, this is Wild and Woolly Gaming. I hope you enjoyed the video. I want to see your challenges, and I dare you to beat me. Anyways, again, like, comment, subscribe, and see you guys in the sky. Take care.